Earl, it is an honor to sit here and talk with you. It's an honor to meet you. Thanks for
Man, it's a pleasure, man. I followed you. I know a lot of people that speak very highly of you, so of course I had to come on. Just growing up in poverty, and I actually did my capstone on resilience for kids in urban areas. It's one of those things that when I take a look at it now and seeing how I was forced to really learn and hone in on resilience as early, it makes me realize, for me and my kids now, the advantage that they have. It's like my kids are privileged. I get that. My kids go to private schools. I get that. So how am I able to reinforce resilience for them now?
Yeah. And so the study was on the positive effects of resilience, obviously, and how.
Yeah, it was on the positive effects of resilience, but also it was on the lack of knowledge on external issues that causes these students to learn resilience at an early age, right? So lack of resources, right? Parenting, some of the schooling issues. And so there were just a lot of things that in previous studies weren't looked at in depth. And I thought it was interesting to, look at things from a racial perspective. I thought it was interesting to look at things from a public/private school perspective. And it was eye-opening because, like I said myself, my kids go to private school. I went to Vanderbilt, which is a private school. So coming from a all-Black high school and going to Vanderbilt was the biggest culture shock ever, right?
Yeah.
I'm now in this Vandy bubble that we always talk about and that we enjoy, that really coddles everybody that's in Central Nashville. And for me, going from West End High School in Birmingham, Alabama, to coming to Vanderbilt University, it was a culture shock. But also at the same time, the resilience that I learned over time helped me to overcome the issue.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's been interesting. We had drastically different upbringings, it sounds like, but my high school was public, and part of me resents the fact that I went to a private college, and I don't want my kids to a certain extent. Obviously, look, we've been so fortunate to have gone to Vanderbilt, and the opportunities and the network that you tap into are fantastic. But there is an aspect of, I guess the term you use is resilience, where it's kind of disconnected from the real world, where, the high school I went to was 70% minority groups. And I just feel like the practical lessons you can learn in an environment like that. And I just feel like it's invaluable. And so going to Vandy,
no, it's definitely going to a multicultural school will help you to learn more about the reality of life, because being in a predominantly Black or predominantly white setting, that's all that's all you learn. You only learn your culture. And so me going to a predominantly Black high school, middle school, elementary school, all I learned my entire life was how the Black community worked. I didn't know how the white community worked, the Asians, the Middle Easterns, I had no clue. And so for me coming on to Vanderbilt campus was yo, what's going on? This is insane. I'm in class with Asian kids, and I've never even had a conversation with an Asian person ever in my life. Jackie Chan was the first, the closest I've ever an age up close in person. Honestly, because where I grew up, we didn't take trips. We weren't fortunate enough to fly around the world. The only place I came to once was Houston during the summer, which was in 98, but I was almost 11 years old. So for me, it was difficult, but I think by learning resilience at an early age, I was able to overcome a lot at Vanderbilt because it was different, man. I'll be honest. That first semester, I was if I wasn't playing football, I probably would have left school, but fortunately it all worked out.
Yeah. It's an interesting, this show's all about kind of, life's redirections where things change in your lives and you have to figure out how to deal with them. So I'm curious, do you have any words of wisdom for people who are in a similar situation, maybe grew up in one situation and now are in a different, how did you cope with that change?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I could give to people is to tell them to diversify your friends, diversify your life. A lot of people get caught up in the stigma of assimilation and not being able to really hone in on their cultural heritage, I would say, man, diversify. Like be able to have friends in other ethnicity groups and cultures and learn their culture too. So now you're able to, like communicate and talk with other people and not just say, oh, you're wrong because of this, because I'm a Christian and I hang out with Catholics. I hang out with Muslims. And so I learn their tradition as well as they learn about mine. And I think it's a beautiful thing because everybody is so like kind of like stringent when it comes to like certain issues in society. And the only way that we could break those barriers is that, hey, all right, let me go and like talk to a person that's Asian and talk about their culture and how they eat X, Y, and Z and some of the things that they do. And hey, come to my house. You could come to my house and learn some things too. And I don't think we do that enough. I don't think a lot of people want to step out of their comfort zone and say, hey, all right, I'm going to, not forcefully do it, but kind of let it happen organically. And I think that would be one of the steps that I would tell anybody who comes from a predominantly white or predominantly Black environment is to diversify it, man. Like step out.
Yeah. Those are great words, man. And a phrase that I've been thinking about a lot that's been resonating with me is the phrase "to know is to love." And I don't know why that's like just now hitting me, but I think it's so true that like we're oftentimes scared of anything that's different, but as soon as you kind of take time to appreciate a different culture or a different type of personality or whatever it is, like there's so many beautiful aspects that maybe you didn't realize at your first glance at it. One of the things that I'm most thankful for is I had a mentor my senior year of high school who told me like, hey, you're about to go to college. You've been hanging around athletes your whole life. You should try to look at a school group that'll do something different. And so I actually enrolled in to do a school play my senior year spring. And I mean, going from the jock crew to like the theater crew was so different, but I feel like it was the best thing for me because I learned, oh my gosh, like, not everybody's into pumping iron and like doing, you know what I'm saying? Like,
for sure. Yeah. No, it definitely will open your eye up and you may even like it. Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't know if you're going to like it until you actually try it. So why not give it an opportunity instead of having like this blind ideology about certain things? It's like, I'm not going to go in like with this pre-thought as to why I don't like this culture. I'm not going to talk to this person because of X, Y, and Z. And because Trump is president, I'm not talking to no white people. No, Trump don't represent the other 99.9999%, of like white people in America. And I think that's one of the issues that we have, man, because everybody is different. Everybody is beautiful. But if we are stuck in our own like mentality, then we won't ever be able to like get out of it.
I like your perspective on that, man. So, okay. Yeah. Was it Bobby Johnson that recruited you to Vandy?
Yeah, I got recruited by Bobby Johnson and Robbie Caldwell. Robbie Caldwell, who's now the offensive line coach at Clemson University. He was my main recruiter. And we still keep in contact to this day. Coach Fisher was the receiver coach. He's my guy. I still talk to him. He's at Arizona State now doing great things. And so I stay in contact with those guys. I actually saw Coach Johnson at Jay Cutler retirement party, which was interesting because I've never seen him outside of the polo and, like the pants and his old, and the hat Nikes, right? Like I've never saw him, in the hat. I've never seen him outside of being like a coach on the field or being at, media, SEC Media Day. So it was cool to see Coach Johnson. We talked about a few things. He's on the college football playoff committee, which is tremendous. So Robbie Caldwell was the guy that I interacted with a lot. And he goes, I'm going to tell you what, Earl, you come down here, you better get your ass right. And so it was always funny, like, to talk to him on the phone because, as I mentioned, my high school was predominantly Black. Like, in terms of teachers, there was one white male teacher who taught chemistry. There was one white female who taught English. And there may have been one other white teacher, but literally that was it. 3 max white teachers at our high school. So those were the only white people that I ever interacted with, like even playing like sports, just the only people that, I had conversations with. And so to have like this white man call me on the phone, every week talking about having my ass ready was just hilarious to me, right? Like every time you called me, like I was like, all right, what he got today? And I would just like crack up laughing every time we talked. But I will say this, he was the first white recruit that came through Birmingham City and came in my school. He didn't like meet me outside in Hoover at Chick-fil-A. He came to my school, and I was like, yo, this white guy got a lot of balls, right? Because the whole entire environment is just like black. The neighborhood is just infested with gang violence and drugs. And to see him walk through, I was like, oh man, this dude, all right, I kind of like this, I kind of like him.